Hey, how's it going again, internets? This is me, Nicholas Palavita, and I just wanted to go over some video footage here with you. And all this is me walking around with a camera around the grocery store, my local Publix. And I wanted to talk to you about the local section of the grocery store because I uh, I think it's a good example of horizontal product differentiation, and it's a good example of what idolatry looks like, actually. The middle section of your grocery store is essentially idol worship, oddly enough. So here we are, and actually the first aisle we're going to go down is the soup aisle. And this aisle I can actually kind of agree with, because a lot of these are like, a lot of this is food that you can store for long periods of time. I don't think canned goods actually like ever go bad. I might have to go check up on that, but it's good to have emergency food around, so I can't like complain too much about that aisle, and that's kind of why I start off there, is because I think canned goods are okay. It's not that bad. And then we turn down here, and what we see are cookies, and this is idolatry, because and all this is so back in the day, people used to worship little statues, and they used to like bow down and pray and like praise statue. And today, what people do is they go buy a container with some type of sense gratification idol in it, and they worship the senses. Uh, and the idol that they use is just the sense gratification aisle. And this is the cereal aisle, and off to the left is coffee, and off to the right is the cereal. And yeah, this is also an example of horizontal product differentiation, right? Like all the different types of varieties of essentially the same product at essentially the same price. Like the pickles here, like all those pickles are very similar, very similarly priced, and there's not much like difference between them. So yeah, so a lot of these containers are just, so imagine praying to a statue. Well, instead of praying to a statue, what you're praying to is sense gratification and sense enjoyment with the thing contained inside of the statue, inside of the container. And when I walk down these aisles, I like to think about the times of Jesus, and how essentially none of this existed when Jesus was here, right? Like none of these statues, none of these containers, none of these products were here, and this is idolatry, guys. Like plain and simple. There's no other way to put it. And when I say that, it's like you also have to think about all the jobs behind this idol worship, right? And this idolatry, and how the manufacturing and processing of these goods essentially leads to waste and pollution and poisons the planet, right? Like it's it's no bueno. It's idol worship. It's idolatry. The middle section of your grocery store is essentially idolatry, and this is like an aisle of chemicals. I mean, we need soap, but do we need this many types of soap? No, probably not. I think people did fine for thousands of years without all these different types of household chemicals. Like somehow they managed to get by, and it's only the last 100 years maybe that this is like become a thing. And then we'll turn down here, and soda is like my favorite section to talk trash about. Like a third of the population of the United States of America right now is obese or overweight, and sugary beverages are just essentially a statue that people pay tribute to, people buy money for, and it's idolatry. It's idol worship. Not that I don't enjoy a Coke, because I'm Santa Claus, so I enjoy a good Coke occasionally. And this is more of like essentially the same thing, right? Instead of soda, it's tea or Gatorade or flavored water, and then here's like bottled water. And I think bottled water in like the gallon jugs for emergency purposes is appropriate, but a lot of this like bottled water ends up the bottles end up in the ocean, or they just end up in the trash, or they get recycled, hopefully. And then here's more idols, right? Like sense enjoyment idols, idols of sense enjoyment, sense worshipping the senses. And to go back to horizontal product differentiation, like there's a lot of different types of potato chips, right? Like there are too many different types of potato chips. And when we go down the freezer and the refrigerator and freezer section, I'm like, I'm not really a fan of refrigerators right now because they take a lot of energy, and a lot of that energy comes from coal or gasoline. And maybe in the future it won't. So like maybe this will be okay at some point, but still the refrigerants have they have they're either greenhouse gases or they're environmentally toxic. So and to go back to like, you know, during the times of Jesus, refrigerators weren't around during the times of Jesus. This is essentially paying tribute to a statue and essentially statue worship. The refrigerator is a statue. And to go along with horizontal product differentiation, like all these different types of wine and beer, right? Like this is what horizontal product differentiation is. It's all the same thing. You just change the label on it, right? Like all of this is essentially the same product, but the label has been changed. It's all wine. Might be different flavors of wine, different types of wine. Some people might profess to have higher quality, more luxurious wine, but it's all, you know, smashed grapes that are fermented. That's what wine is, right? Like it might have different flavors. This is horizontal product differentiation. The wine section is a pretty good example of that. And we're just gonna go down the soda aisle one more time. I'm really glad I went down the soda aisle for the last spin to highlight the horizontal product differentiation in the soda aisle. And even like, you know, even different containers, like on the bottom you have cans and on the top you have liter bottles, and then in between you have smaller bottles. But all the entire soda aisle is idolatry. It's sense worship. It's bowing down to a statue of soda. And to go along with how I was talking about the refrigerators and how I'm not really a fan of them right now, because the coolant is either a greenhouse gas or is highly flammable or is poisonous to the environment around us on some levels. So I'm not really a fan of refrigerators, and they also take a lot of energy to run. And at some point I think we'll like go to 100% renewable energy and it won't be a big deal, but right now I'm like, this is just like, the world is on fire, right? Like the refrigerator might be cold to us, like we might think that it's cold, but in order for it to be cold, there has to be a fire somewhere. Like there has to be a fire burning. So essentially I'm just like, I'm surrounded by fire. Everything's on fire. Meat, I'll talk about meat later. I'm not a big fan of eating meat. I think we should abandon eating cow. And oh, hey, this section is okay. This is like real food. This is real food. And then, yeah, of course, I end once we get to the real food part. But yeah, I just wanted to, like, you know, let you get my thoughts on the middle section of a grocery store. Essentially, I think that the entire middle section of the grocery store is idolatry, but you know, maybe you have a different opinion on that, and I would love to hear that. Thanks so much. Bye, guys.